Okay, so has it ever survived?
Usually at this point in your pregnancy, it's too early to survive usually.
Okay.
It will expire shortly after birth. It's all in how vigorously you do things to help a fetus survive at this point. Like, we would not help it.
Under the Federal Born Alive Infants Protection Act, any child born in the United States, including a survivor of a failed abortion attempt, is guaranteed the full rights and legal protections of citizenship and entitled to life-saving medical care. You are about to witness a conversation that was taped by an undercover live-action investigator at a prominent late-term abortion clinic in our nation's capital, Washington, D.C. The investigator, who was 24 weeks pregnant, met with clinic abortionist Dr. Cesare Santangelo and asked him what he would do if her child survived the late-term abortion procedure. Will the abortionist fulfill his legal responsibility to sustain the life of the baby if it survives the late-term abortion?
Hopefully we'll get the pregnancy out intact, but it doesn't always happen that way. I cut the umbilical cord first, wait for the baby to expire, and then we do it that way.
Okay.
So hopefully the fetus will expire first, and then we'll do the pregnancy termination that way.
Okay. And then how big is the baby?
Your pregnancy at this point is about 24, 25 weeks.
Okay.
So
It's pretty, like, is it like, I don't
it's
know.
about the size of your hand.
So you say you take it out intact?
We tried, that's the whole reason why we do the dilation today and tomorrow.
Does it ever, like, move or anything when it comes out? Or?
That's why I try and sever the umbilical cord first, and we wait for that to stop pulsing, and that's why the fetus is expired first, so it doesn't.
Okay, so has it ever survived?
After
When it comes out?
Not here, no.
Okay.
No, it could. I mean, if some people go into labor, prior to us, when you do this, what we do is we try and help the cervix dilate, and some people will go into labor before we do the procedure.
Okay.
And that can happen.
Okay.
It's unusual.
And then what do you...
Usually at this point in your pregnancy, it's too early to survive usually.
Okay.
It will expire shortly after birth.
But if it did, like, what would happen? Like, would I have to take it home or, like, be responsible for
I mean, technically, legally we would be obligated to help it, to survive. But, it probably wouldn't. It's all in how vigorously you do things to help a fetus survive at this point. When you have a pregnancy that's 23, 24 weeks, if you're, extra... If you do everything possible to help it survive, there's maybe a 20 to 30% chance that it would survive. If you don't do anything, then the chances are much, much less.
I'm just, like, so scared of, like,
Sure,
having to be stuck with the
that's
responsibility.
obviously,
Like, would you make sure that it, like,
it
doesn't
there's
survive?
things you do. Obviously, you're here for a certain procedure, and if your pregnancy were, let's say you went into labor, the membrane's ruptured, and you delivered before we got to the termination part of the procedure here, then we would do things, we would not help it. Let's say we wouldn't intubate.
Okay.
Okay.
So you would make sure.
Yeah, we wouldn't do any extra. It's like it would be a person that would be a terminal person in the hospital. Let's say they had cancer. You wouldn't do any extra procedures to help that person survive.
Okay.
They had, like, do not resuscitate orders.
Okay.
We would do the same things here.
Okay.
Whereas if you were in a hospital in Virginia, let's say, and you went into labor and you went to the hospital and then they saw you deliver, they would do everything possible to help that fetus survive.
Okay, but you won't.
We wouldn't.
Okay.
You know, and that's happened before, to tell you the truth.
Really?
Yeah, where, we've had patients that, on the second day of the Lebanon they got some contractions, and they panicked, and they were in Virginia at the hospital, and they went to the hospital because they had some pain instead of calling me, and they just went to the hospital, and the hospital helped them to deliver, which was the stupidest thing they could have done.
Oh my God.
Which was,
Yeah.
and they did everything they shouldn't have done, which was help them to deliver. And I'd hate to say, take your time, think about it, go home. There's not much time left.
How much time do I have?
I mean, I could say we could do this in a week or two, but I'd rather we do it now and be done with it, because there's not much time.